Today we're gonna talk about foreshortening. Now, foreshortening is a way to kind of produce a three-dimensional space by using something closer to the camera or the viewer of the art. For instance, let's make a couple of panels here that we are gonna draw inside of. So let's make a couple of these. I'm gonna move one over here and we're gonna go like this. Let's make four different foreshortening things we can do. Okay, so you can kind of understand the properties of foreshortening. So here we go. Here we have 4 panels. I'm gonna try so you can see all the panels here, right? And I'm gonna put this under here and we're gonna go and work in a more red kind of color. The most used foreshortening is the fist or the hand closer to the camera and the person behind. For instance, the punch that is usually in a lot of comics. So for instance, you have the fist here close to the camera like such, and you have the person somewhere here. You can see a little bit of the shoulder coming like this, and perhaps his other arm is somewhere like this. Something like that. He's throwing a punch at the camera. That is one of the most usually foreshortening things I see these days. You can use it for, pointing, or for instance, if he's reaching out, or, if you have the classical Superman flying with his hands or his hand towards you. But you have to remember that foreshortening is also things in the background or in the foreground. So it's kind of like that as well. You can have, for instance, let's do a character that has been trapped. He's been running and now he's trapped. So he's kind of like, oh no, I ran into the wrong alley and now there's people surrounding me. Where do I go? Where do I escape to? So we're gonna make another layer up top and we're gonna make characters stand in the front like this. Here we go, and maybe some shadows just to get it kind of different from the character that we're watching. Now this is also a composition thing you can do, so you can kind of point where you should look when you're using shadows. So you can darken so we only see this area. But for this, we're just gonna go and do like this. And I'm gonna try, there we go, and blur it a little bit. Here we go. So now you can see we have a foreshortening kind of thing because you have something in the foreground. We could also, for this, do something in the background. Perhaps there are more characters. Maybe there are more people hunting him. So maybe there are characters behind him as well. Maybe they have some machine guns or something like that. Like this. And I'm gonna go, whoops, let's see, we're gonna take that, here we go. And we're gonna do a blur on that as well. Like such. So you can see, we have foreground, middle, and background. So it's kind of like a foreshortening thing you can do as well. Because it's not only connected to the person, like the fist over here, that throws it to the camera, but you can also use different characters. You can use objects that are going further and further away. And I keep rotating this. Let's see, here we go. So for instance, you can use an object. For instance, let's make another classical thing you usually see in comics and stuff like that. And it's the gun. The typical, oops, here we go. I'm gonna go and remake that one a little bit, like such. Now this is not the best gun, but just to get the point across. So the fist will be somewhere around here. And I do need to practice my guns a lot more. I usually do these with references, so. But like this. Now we have a character pointing a gun, like such. So what is really happening in the foreshortening things? Well, it's not really a question about how you do it. It's a question about understanding the scene and understanding the camera. So for instance, we can also use like this. We can have a character perhaps looking up into the sky, and we can have, I'm gonna go and do some support lines here just so I can show you. So we can have a character that's perhaps looking up, seeing a UFO of some sorts. And you can see I'm doing it so it's like the camera is above the character, and the character's legs and lower body is going away from the camera. It's kind of like going down like this. That is also a kind of foreshortening. So what is really happening here? Well, if you have the camera, which is the paper, the square that we've done here, if that is the lens that we're looking through, like such, the punch, which is the most usual one, looks something like this. So if we have the character here, he's most likely doing something like this if we look at it from the side. So the fist is here, and the face is here, and the camera is here. In this shot that we have on the fist, the camera is more likely to be a little bit more closer, like this. Maybe somewhere around here. And I would actually put it a little bit more up because we don't see much of the lower body. So you can see we get already how the camera first sees this, and it becomes bigger because it's closer to you. Remember the 1 point perspective thing? It's kind of like that. When you have 1 point and everything goes like this from that point. But when you put an object, for instance, if this was the fist and we're just gonna make it look like a square, you can instantly see that the fist is big here, and this could be the end of the hand, this could be the elbow part, and here somewhere is the shoulder. And you can see the shoulder is already looking a lot smaller. And then we get to the arm part, like this. And then we get to the fist, like such. As you can see, it goes away because the point is somewhere around here, and it goes like such. If we're gonna use the 1 point perspective theory. But when it comes to foreshortening, I usually think about it as a camera, because if you take a picture and you put the fist very close to the camera, your fist will look a lot bigger depending on how close to the camera you are and how far away you are from it. If you're not much away from the camera, well, it's not gonna be much foreshortening. For instance, let's say we have the camera, my really bad camera, and we have the character standing a little bit, no, not a little bit, a much farther away. For instance, let's make the person here point, for instance. So the character is pointing towards the camera. Okay? That will look something like this. If we have the paper here now, this is our art. But the camera is now further away, so it will not have the same effect as it is closer. Sure, it will be a little bit affected. The hand will look a little bit bigger, but not too much, because we are farther away from the camera. It doesn't get that effect when you get the camera close. So it will become smaller. But if we put the camera like we've done before, and I'm just gonna copy this now. Boom. And we put the guy much closer to the camera. Then we're gonna get the desired effect, which is we're gonna have the fist and the pointing a lot bigger, and the character here behind smaller, because it's closer to the camera. Okay, so that is pretty much foreshortening for these dynamic kind of angles and stuff like that. But remember, foreshortening can also be different things put in different instances from the camera, like this, where you have people in the foreground, you have the focus here on the main guy in the middle, but you also have characters or perhaps a city or a backdrop that is the background, which is also a type of foreshortening. You can also use it to have the bird's eye view, or perhaps people from below. Remember, you can always go like this as well and have a character like this standing on top of you, like this. Perhaps this is a very powerful person and standing right on top of us. Or maybe this is the killer and he's here to kill us all for our sins. A little bit more Mike Myers kind of thing, perhaps. So you can see this is also a way of foreshortening. It depends on how you use it and what you want from it. But usually I think of it as the camera. Is it close to the camera? How far from the camera is it? Or is it pointing at the camera? Because that is also a thing. Everything can become a foreshortening thing depending on how close you are with the camera. How much is it gonna be? You can use it for a dynamic effect, like in pointing a gun or throwing a fist. It can also be used to emphasize, or you can even stretch. Sometimes you can use it and stretch things and make it a lot bigger than it should be, you know, in reality. For instance, we can do the finger really big and we can make the fist like extremely large, just to emphasize the effect. Even when it shouldn't be that big, just to emphasize the dynamic and the pointing. We're using a kind of extreme or more fictional kind of way of foreshortening it. But it's also depending on, you know, what style you have. Does it work for the composition or the, you know, the thing you have to do for the art? Because sometimes foreshortening is good, sometimes it doesn't have to be. And remember, it doesn't always have to be something that's pointing against the camera. A popular thing in manga is the wind up for the punch. So for instance, if you have a character here and he's really angry, he's coming towards you, screaming his lungs out. Oh, here we go. And he has his fist somewhere here. and it's coming, you know, to punch. Let's see, we're gonna redo this one a little bit quick here because that was not really good, but here we go. I'm gonna do a fist here, and we're gonna have the arm kind of like this, and then you have the speed lines coming towards us and showing us the speed of the punch. That is also a kind of way of foreshortening, because the face this time is closer to the camera and the fist is actually further back. So for instance, if you look at this, it will be this fist instead of this fist. So it's this fist is further back and the face is actually more front. So if the camera was somewhere around here, it would be kind of like what we have done here, where the face is closer to the camera and the fist is further way back. So that is also a way of doing it. But like I said, try some things out, figure it out. For me, I usually think of, okay, the camera. The camera is the panel or the paper. What are we watching? Is it closer to us? Is it further away from us? And I hope you have learned a little bit on how foreshortening is working. And I will thank you for watching. If there's anything you want to learn, please let me know in the comments. I will try to make a video of it. If you have any suggestions, if there's something special you want to learn, don't be afraid to ask, put it in the comments, and I will see you in the next tutorial video. Bye!